Hello, dear student.
You know, when you hear the word salt, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably the shaker on your dinner table, right? Well, it turns out that familiar white crystal is just the very tip of the iceberg. In the world of chemistry, salt is a massive, and I mean massive, and vital category of compounds. So today, we're going to dive into the grade 10 curriculum and really explore the incredible science behind what salts are, how they behave, and why they are so darn essential to the world all around us. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to nail down what a salt actually is, in chemical terms. Then, we'll get into their unique properties. You could almost call it their personality. After that, we'll pop into the chemical kitchen to see how they're made, learn the super important rules about what dissolves and what doesn't, and finally, we'll tie it all together and see why salts matter so much in our everyday lives.
All right, first things first. From a chemist's point of view, what is a salt? Let's get to the core of a definition that goes way, way beyond just taste.
Right, we all have a starting point with table salt, good old sodium chloride. But this question, this is the key that unlocks a much, much bigger world. What's the common thread that connects the salt on your fries to the compounds that go into fertilizers or even batteries? Let's find out.
Okay, here it is, the big definition. A salt is an ionic compound. What does that mean? It just means it's made of ions, atoms that have an electrical charge. Specifically, a salt forms from this incredibly powerful electrostatic attraction. Think of it like a super strong magnetic pull between a positive ion, which we call a cation, that usually comes from a base, and a negative ion, an anion, that comes from an acid.
And this powerful attraction isn't just some chaotic mess. No, the positive and negative ions arrange themselves into this perfectly ordered, repeating, three-dimensional structure. We call it the crystal lattice. Seriously, picture microscopic Lego bricks. A positive one, then a negative one, then a positive one, snapping together into a perfect grid. And it's this incredibly stable, organized pattern that is responsible for pretty much all the properties we associate with salts.
Which brings us perfectly to our second point. Once you get your head around that crystal lattice, you can really start to understand the personality of salts. That underlying structure is the reason they act the way they do.
So what does this personality look like? Well, 4 key traits really stand out, and they all come from that lattice. Those strong bonds mean they're solid at room temperature. It also takes a huge amount of energy to melt them. They're also kind of picky about when they conduct electricity. And, fascinatingly, they are both very hard and very brittle at the exact same time. Let's break those down.
And this right here gets to the why. Why do salts have such ridiculously high melting points? It all comes back to those electrostatic forces. The bonds holding that lattice together are just so incredibly strong that you have to pump in a ton of heat energy just to get those ions vibrating enough to finally break free. I mean, regular table salt won't even think about melting until you hit about 800 degrees Celsius.
Now this is crucial. Electricity is just the flow of charge. In a solid salt, sure, the ions are charged, but they are locked into that rigid lattice. They can't go anywhere, so no electricity flows. But if you melt the salt or dissolve it in water, that lattice breaks down. Suddenly, those ions are free to move around, and that liquid becomes an excellent electrical conductor. This is exactly the principle behind electrolytes in sports drinks. They're just salts dissolved in water, helping electrical signals move through your body. And this explains that weird, hard yet brittle thing. The strong bonds make the crystal really hard to scratch. But check out what happens if you hit it. If you apply enough force to shift the layers just one tiny spot over, all of a sudden you have positive ions right next to other positive ions and negatives next to negatives. That creates an immense repulsive force that literally pushes the crystal apart, and it shatters. It's strong, for sure, but it has zero flexibility.
Okay, so we know what a salt is and how it behaves. Now let's head into the chemical kitchen. We're going to look at the main recipes chemists use to cook up different salts, specifically the ones that can dissolve in water.
The curriculum lays out 4 main ways to do this. You can react an acid with an alkali, a reactive metal, an insoluble base, or an insoluble carbonate. You notice a pattern there? 3 of those methods involve adding an excess of something that doesn't dissolve. That's actually a really clever lab trick. You just add way more than you need, let it all react, and then you can simply filter out the leftovers, leaving you with a pure salt solution. But let's take a closer look at that first method, titration, because it's a great example of chemical precision.
Titration is all about precision. See, because both the acid and the alkali dissolve, you can't just filter one out at the end. So you use this long, marked glass tube called a burette to add an acid drop by drop to an alkali. You also add a chemical indicator that magically changes color at the exact moment the solution becomes perfectly neutral. That's the sweet spot, where every acid particle has found a base particle. And at that moment, all you have left is a solution of salt and water. You gently heat it, drive off the water, and as it cools, beautiful pure salt crystals start to form. It's pretty cool.
So we've made a salt, but here's the next big question. Will it dissolve in water? This is a hugely important question in chemistry, and lucky for us, chemists have figured out a set of rules that help us predict the answer. This is the science of solubility. You can basically think of these rules as a chemist's cheat sheet, so let's just walk through it. That first column is your go-to for things that are pretty much always soluble. Any salt with sodium, potassium, or ammonium, it's going to dissolve. Same goes for any salt with a nitrate ion. Those are your sure things. Now the next group is for things that are usually soluble. Most chlorides and sulfates will dissolve, but there are a few famous exceptions you got to watch out for, like silver chloride or barium sulfate. Those guys are stubbornly insoluble. And finally, you've got the generally insoluble crew.
Most carbonates and hydroxides just won't dissolve, unless, of course, they're paired up with one of those always soluble ions from the first group. Knowing these rules is like having a chemical superpower.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. What salts are, how they act, how we make them, and whether they dissolve. So for our last section, let's zoom out and connect all this to the bigger picture. Why does any of this matter?
Well, if you look at the curriculum itself, you can see this unit on salts isn't just some random chapter thrown in there. It's a critical bridge. It takes the fundamental ideas about ions and charges from electrochemistry and connects them directly to how salts are actually used in huge industries and in agriculture. It's the essential link between the pure theory and the real world.
And the applications are literally everywhere. The principles we've just talked about are essential for making fertilizers like ammonium nitrate that help feed the entire planet. That same chemistry explains how sodium chloride, our old friend table salt, has been used for centuries to keep food from spoiling. It's even in the walls of your house as the calcium sulfate that makes up drywall. Understanding how salts form and dissolve is fundamental to so many things that support our daily lives.
So I guess the question this all leaves us with is this: how can we use these simple, fundamental rules about ions and lattices and attraction to help us design the complex, amazing materials of the future? Whether we're talking about better batteries, new medicines, or more efficient ways to do just about anything, the possibilities are really all built on the science of salt.